Hi, Miss Stone. This is my reading conference, obviously. This is my reading journal. It says right here, reading journal. And, ooh, blurry. Let's begin. So, during the month and a half that I've been in this class, I feel like as I didn't improve to the extent that I was hoping. I still struggle in many areas, but I have improved in others, so that's a good thing. An area that I feel like I've improved is appreciating and noticing the details that the author put in their books. For a summer assignment, I read Brave New World with the mentality of being forced to read it, as I was required for the class. This led me to not noticing the small details as stated here. What I noticed about how I read is that I'm very thick-headed. I was able to pull apart the imagery words, but I couldn't make the final conclusion of the place where the life begins had no life. I still had this troll from Nabokov, as stated here. In the next text, I will try to build on my deep analysis. I know that it is something that will take a lot of time and effort, seeing as I would be changing the way that I think. But for this class and others to come, I will have to, or else I will drown. My brain almost seems unable to connect the two pieces together, like in Brave New World and the word association to the overall mood of the first page. My brain would have never thought the word sterile. But my appreciation for these works did begin with this book. When it came to Nabokov, though, I feel as though it was the epic poem that helped me improve in noticing the small details. Unfortunately, I made the discovery of Beowulf and Grendel being practically the same untouchable being in my outline from the Beowulf essay, which I no longer have in my possession. I can't read it from the essay as I switched the focus of my essay from Grendel to Beowulf, so I switched the characters, thus making it very difficult for me to write about the thing that I noticed without making it seem off topic. By the time we got to the partner's tale, let me flip. I was able to connect the parts relatively easily. This story showed a clear objective of demonstrating how corrupted greed is for everyone, making the ending a bit predictable. The ending meaning where the three men kill themselves and each other. To be completely honest, I probably wouldn't have put these pieces together without prompting. A part in the back of my mind would have known that what the moral is, since fairly blatant, and another would have known that it was a bit hypocritical for the partner to be telling this story. Other than that, these pieces probably wouldn't have never been put together to show this overall sophistication of the story, with that being how extremely corrupted greed is for anyone. This passage, I feel, nicely summarizes where I am right now, with noticing and connecting these details. More likely than not, I have to be prompted in order to make these deep connections. But now there is a slight chance that I myself can actually make meaningful connections, like I did with Beowulf. My reading of prose, however, made my appreciation for the small details skyrocket. And prose number 4. A passage that really caught my attention was when she talked about her childhood books and why she loved them so much, which is paragraphs 23 and 24. It was so clearly obvious that her love of reading, and eventually writing, came from these wondrous images and grand works of art that splayed across her mind. Her writing makes that painfully clear. Personally, I love to see people talk about what they adore with a passion. There's something so intoxicating about seeing someone's eyes light up and to hear the excitement in their voice of them telling me why they love the subject, person, or activity so much. So it makes sense why this passage called out to me the most. Not to mention, the flow of her words was wonderfully constructed and filled with pleasing imagery. I would just feel with so much great emotion while reading that passage. So, yeah, it was probably my favorite part of that essay. One of my bigger problems that I have and still greatly struggle with is verbal irony. The struggle has obviously been going on since before the beginning of this year. I knew Brave New World was a satire book and used a lot of verbal irony, but I could never pinpoint exactly where it was located. What paragraphs were ironic, where paragraphs were ironic. The same goes for the general prologue for Canterbury Tales, which is right here. The biggest issue I have with verbal irony, the biggest issue that I have is with verbal irony. So this is something that I'm going to have to be more mindful of. I'm not used to reading ironic statements in books that weren't pointed out, and since our summer assignment and this tale is satirical, I know for a fact that other books we read this year are going to have this aspect in them in one way or another. My lack of understanding the verbal irony hindered my understanding of the story, as seen here. One of the corrupted out of the corrupted characters, the monk seems to receive Chaucer's harshest censure. The extreme use of irony when he was questioning when questioning if the monk should do all the things he needed to do, gives off the tone of anger. He questions the reader for a while too. As I know now, the partner was the most criticized, not the monk, which in of itself is ironic, since, the partner pardons people for their sins. Obviously, this is something that I'm going to have to work on, lest I want to misunderstand another story, which, as any other person in this class, I don't. That being said, I have to improve on practically every aspect of being a good reader. I now look up words in the dictionary instead of using context clues, a skill that I use quite often for 1984, which is a pretty good read. But I still don't reread passages and sections, which is bad since, as Nabokov said, you have to keep rereading passages to fully understand it. So in the future, I hope to start off with something as small as rereading, and hope that it spurs something inside of me that will hopefully lead to improvements in the 10 plus aspects that make a good reader, that Nabokov and Prose have said. I know for a fact that I didn't improve much. I'm still a terrible reader, and I've been a bad reader ever since I could remember. But now I have these tips that help me actually improve. So these tips that Nabokov and Prose had with the close reading and all the skills that I have, I can actually use them and actually use them to better myself instead of blindly going forward and trying to improve myself even though I don't know where to improve. So, I'm going to have to figure out what Nabokov means by imagination and artistic delight. But, I can easily ask you questions or ask my classmates questions what they think it is. So, hopefully with these lists, I will be able to become a better reader, because I really need to become a better reader and analyzer and quick thinking, especially for the AP test, but hopefully that happens. Well, it will, because I'm taking this class. So, yeah. Bye.